History for Foos, people.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the History for Foos podcast. Thank you, everybody who listens. Shout out to Ben Wood. Also, man, if you like this podcast and you want this podcast to continue, I will recommend right now that everybody that's listening right now, if you're on the chat, don't just chat. Go leave an actual comment on the podcast. Also, share the podcast. Get people to listen to it. Also, if you're like ever at the Apple store and you're near a computer, also go to YouTube and have the whatever. Subscribe to the Felipe Esparza YouTube page,
YouTube channel, yeah,
and then subscribe to the History for Food podcast.
Yes,
because it helps a lot if you guys actually like go right now and comment. Hey man, this is tight. Because right now we only got like 30 comments. I think that's the most comments we ever had. But it really helps to keep the podcast going and keep the algorithm going. And
yeah, let us know you guys want to keep.
And also, man, you know, there's some a bunch of ads now. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we got ads, dude.
Like I was listening to it and like every like kind of annoying too, but
well, you got to.
But hey, I'll take those $5, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's what pays the bills because we do this for nothing. We're right now we don't have any ad drops or anything yet, but like I love doing it. First of all, I don't want to keep doing it, but the ads are fine. I'm okay with ads. I watch other my favorite YouTube channels. I'll sit through the ads. What you got there?
Oh, what's up, everybody? I got a free book of the week, Felipe Esparza side thing on the History for Food I made up right now.
Oh, okay, all right.
This is a free book I got. It's called Curveball by Barry Zito.
The book report by Felipe
I have not
Esparza.
read the book. I don't know anything of this book.
Oh, okay.
When I grabbed it for free at KMBC Studios, I did an interview with Michelle. I forgot her last name, but she's a fan. It's called California Life, and she interviewed me for like 5 minutes about my stand-up and my big comedy show that's happening in Houston, April 25th with Paul Rodriguez, who was arrested for narcotics.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at that. Go ahead, let's do that again.
When Rodrigo told me that he was arrested, I said, let me guess. He was driving, and then he tried to go to the back seat like he wasn't driving.
Oh, I remember you saying that, dude. That was hilarious.
So, this is a book not about Paul Rodriguez. It's about Curveball by Barry Zito. So, when I got this free book, I thought it was a book Moneyball.
Okay.
But it's very
Curveball.
Curveball.
That's how they get you. So pick it up. Are you going to read that yourself?
Yeah.
And you're going to let us
I'm
know.
going to read it later.
Let us
But
know
I want
what
a
you think
fan.
next week.
I want a fan to go pick it up on Audible or pick it up somewhere where you grab free books.
Okay.
Or go to Barnes & Noble, read a couple of chapters. Let them know what you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But besides that, Barry Zito's a badass fool.
Share your thoughts. Very nice. Very nice. There it is right there.
Oh.
You got it for free. It costs that
sets the mood, this new light we have
costs
going.
$17.35, dude. There you go. I like that, dude. Yeah, a little jazzy. Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, man. A lot of people like drumsticks. I'm more about brushes, bro. Wax on, wax off.
Nice, dude. That's melodic. I'm feeling like.
Did you hear about the guy with a broken left hand and broken left leg?
No.
He's all right now.
All right.
History for Fools, man.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. So don't forget to subscribe to the History for Fools podcast. Keep us going, man, because we're trying to take it to the next level, man.
Yeah, we're trying to keep this thing going.
We're trying to be as popular as the What's Up Fool podcast, or even more popular.
I would like it to be.
We might have to recast
popular.
the What's Up Fool podcast.
Wow,
Anyways,
yeah.
so get some new blood. So
Get some new blood in the mix, huh?
Subscribe. I'm also gonna start another podcast with my wife Lisa Esparza. It's gonna be a pop culture podcast.
Ooh, okay.
We talk about pop culture from the past and stuff that we don't do no more, or stuff or sayings we don't say anymore.
Right.
Like nobody says that's fresh.
Okay.
Somebody says that's fresh. I'm pretty sure you're gonna look around. What? I'm not eating anything.
Right. But
what's fresh? Well, anyways, I don't want to get into.
No, I get what you're doing.
Spoiler alert.
Ooh.
But pop culture. You know, talk about television and talk about because there's a lot of pop culture in television. You know, every genre has it. Every show has it where you're watching a television show and all of a sudden this person doesn't have a sister anymore.
Right.
Like they disappear.
Yeah, I have a show that I watch right now.
I have the one that sticks to my head is my head. Say mention one and that's it.
Okay.
What person disappeared of a TV show?
Shelly, I think, what's her name? What's the girl from Cheers, bro? Where she just was like gone, and they had to make up a story about her being gone. And then
I'm talking about disappear, bro. Where they don't even mention her.
Where they don't even mention.
I'm think of one right now, but there's so many. Happy Days.
Happy Days. Okay.
It was Mr. Cunningham. And his.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
who disappeared?
It wasn't Mr. Cunningham.
It was Richie Cunningham and Joni Cunningham.
Yes. And all of a sudden, was it Richie who disappeared?
No, they had an older brother.
They had an older brother.
He was always bouncing the basketball upstairs. And the dad was, hey, stop bouncing the basketball. And then, and there was
way.
There's an episode.
Hold on, what?
Yeah, he went upstairs and never came back.
Get the fuck out of here.
So anyways, that's it. No more discussion about that. So yeah, Lisa Esparza and I are going to have a pop culture show where we would delve into a conspiracy like that. There it is. Chuck Cunningham. The guy that disappeared, bro. Chuck Cunningham. That's it. No more. So
I can't wait for this, dude. I can't wait for this. That's great.
So yeah, man. So every time, speaking of things that disappear and people forgot, last week we talked about the Bracero program, and so this week we'll talk about the Japanese internment camps.
Right.
The Japanese evacuation. They don't want to call it concentration camp.
Relocation is
relocation.
Yeah, relocation.
Yeah, relocation. They would have good words for it, huh?
They like to find new vocabulary for things to make it sound like it's not as bad brutal as it is. And, I don't...
right now, bro, they're not deporting people. They're just relocating them back to where they came from.
They're relocating them, and then they're correcting them. That's the thing is, Department of Corrections is always my favorite because we're correcting your behavior. But it's like when you go to prison, it gets worse.
What are you talking about?
So one of the words that they use that's kind of fancy is the jails and prisons, we'll call it corrections, right? That's how they refer to prison.
So you had if you could word it your way, what would you call that establishment?
The fucking human zoo. Because it's just a bunch of animals in cages.
I think if you were to call it the human zoo, there'll be less animals trying to get in.
Yeah, right? Who wants to go to the human zoo?
Yeah, because if you call it the Department of Corrections, it sounds like somewhere where they're going to give you a bunch of papers to file.
They're going to make you, right, and it's going to be great. Your behavior is going to be corrected. You're going to learn how to be a good part of society. But then you go and you come back, and there's so many cases where someone goes for white collar crime.
These prisons that they call themselves,
they come back a gang member, bro.
These prisons that are considered privately owned, they're still how do they run it? How do they get money to run them?
The ones that are privately owned, because that's where they make your license plates, your sporks that you.
No, but I want to know how do they get funding to run the prison?
That's where they get the funding, is through the stuff that they make.
What do they make?
Cheap labor. It's cheap labor. So sporks that you get at the airport, or napkins that are, when you get the little package with the spork and and the spoon, and then you get the knife, and then the salt and pepper. Those are sometimes made by prisoners. Our license plates are still made by prisoners. You know, like there's certain things that California and states that have paid for prisons will allow us to produce, which is basically slave labor. You know, I mean, I don't care, to be honest with you. I'm not like, don't let them do that. You know, I'm more like, if you commit a crime, then you're the one who has to be a slave. But again, let's not call it what it is, because they call it for-profit prisons, privately owned prisons. But those are enslavement. Those are like modern day, what do you call them?
Doesn't Michael Jordan own one of those prisons?
Does he really? Get the fuck out of here, dude. That's crazy, dude.
Look it up.
Get out of here.
Michael Jordan.
He probably has like stock in one or something.
That's probably where they sold his little hoop. What did it say right there, bro?
Oh, where they put on his little like his.
No, but what did it say right there?
Investor. He is not known to be owner of prisons or to have invested in private prison stock. He's a majority owner of. Okay.
Fake news, man.
Fake news, dude. Someone see, here we are, dude. History for fools, dude. You get a little bit of education
and facts now.
And facts, dude. We are all about the facts here. Don't let them
fool ya.
Fool ya. Tell you, Butch Escobar. You don't know what you're talking about, dude. We fucking spit.
If you're coming here for actual knowledge, guess what? Turn the page. You came to the wrong place. But we're here to talk about the Japanese evacuation.
No, relocation.
Which started in 19. Also, man, I didn't know this, but Canada took in a lot of internment camps too, huh? They locked up Germans.
I didn't read about that.
You know?
But yeah, I see. That's what I was wondering, and that to me is the biggest thing. Is like, so what we're talking about. If you guys don't know, we're talking about internment camps for Japanese Americans.
Because after they bombed Pearl Harbor. They didn't trust Japanese.
They didn't trust Japanese people. And you might be wondering, like, you know, because this is different than any other immigrant story that we've covered, right?
Yeah.
Like, we talk about the braceros. And even, you know, in a way, you know, this isn't fair because Mexicans have been here since before anybody else. And the natives that Mexicans came, whatever. You know, and then we talked about Chinese food. And when we talked about the history of Chinese food, we were able to talk about how Chinese immigrants came here. Dude, in 1863, you actually have to go. This is funny because, like, you have to scale back so far as to why the Japanese were here so early. Because the Japanese were, like, some of the first immigrants, and they were, really accepted when they first got here. You know, in the 1860s, for the first time in...
When did Japanese come to America? 1860?
In the 1860s, because for hundreds of years, Japan was under... a shogun rule, and they were not allowed to trade or make any trades or work with any countries, and people were not allowed to visit, and people were not allowed to leave.
Bro, let's say something funny.
What?
Dodger Stadium for opening day. Right behind home, not behind home plate. I was right behind the side. You know, there's home plate.
Right.
But then there's behind where the batter is.
Yeah.
I was behind the batter.
Okay.
Not behind home plate, but there was a fucking dude sitting next to me. The motherfucker wearing a Shogun Dodger hat.
Oh, no, really?
Look it up. Otani Shogun Dodger hat, dog.
That's fucking rad.
That's what I was saying, bro. Like I was telling when I was saying this joke in Kansas City that once you get other ethnicities involved in your world.
Right.
We take it to the next level.
We take it to the next.
Like, see,
that is fucking dope.
So you know, you let Japanese in baseball.
How much is that?
Look, how much culture is in that hat, dog?
I'm not even a Dodgers fan.
I want a hat. Look at that.
Yeah,
that's when he was in the Angels. He was wearing that hat. But I was telling you in Kansas City, once you let the other ethnicities involved in the culture, man. We took it to the next level, bro. Like Kansas City Chiefs fans, they've never seen a fucking wrestling mask with made out of a Kansas City Chief, or a fucking poncho, a Mexican fucking blanket with our Chief fucking players on it.
Yeah, our influence is very.
Our influence is strong,
very
bro.
Spicy, very strong.
Like, you get us involved, you start seeing a fucking Raiders candle, like Raymond Norta, bro. That motherfucker was selling cowboy. Raymond Norta was selling cowboy candles.
Money off the Cowboys, dude. And they were like,
He goes, no, cabrón, I made more money selling candles than the cabrones paid me. They wanted to tax me.
yeah, dude, totally.
This fool was selling knives with fucking cowboys on it, bro.
Right, yeah.
So
okay,
anyway.
so you have Japan that was locked. It had locked itself in, almost like North Korea is doing now, for 200 years while they remained feudal, and it was under shogun rule. And then it went from shogun rule to having an emperor, and once they had an emperor, the emperor. So what happened was while they were under shogun rule, the Americans had rolled up and were like, "Yo, you guys gotta trade. We're not gonna let you not trade. And if you don't trade, we're gonna fucking attack you. We have guns." And this is the first time like Japanese people had seen guns and were like, "Yo, what the fuck?" And
because that was we talked about that. We're talking about the history of gunpowder.
right.
We're talking about guns, and you said that we said that one of those motherfuckers that were going after Japan made that gunpowder.
Right, yeah. And so that's the thing is that
Remember they were throwing them, bro.
they were throwing them, but these guys.
Samurai had nothing for that shit.
But America rolls up with steamships, metal steamships, fucking huge cannons, and Japan's been kind of living tribal for like hundreds of years. And so America's like, "Yo, dude, you have to trade with us." And not only do you have to trade,
They didn't want to trade, huh?
you have to let us fucking
Fuck your ladies.
you have to let us do whatever we want here, bro. And they really did, bro. They really did. And that kind of fucked up feudal Japan, like the shogun's grip, because the rebels started getting guns and killing the armies.
I heard that there's a bunch of spoons and forks and they threw them in the ocean.
So so there's a civil war and the imperial government takes over.
Sakamoto.
And now you have an emperor of Japan, and he realizes like, and this is one thing that's amazing.
You know how you say take a booger out in Japanese?
What?
Sakamoko. Go ahead.
So this is something like that is amazing about Japan, is that it.
You went to Japan. Everybody know.
I went to Japan like a few times, and and when you look at like how advanced they are, how much technology they have, like this speaks for it, because Japan was somewhat in the Middle Ages when we rolled up with steamships and guns, and Japan went from that point to being an imperialist bomber, like taking over countries within less than like.
People forget that Japan beat the shit out of Russia,
bro. We're talking less than 60 years, and they fucking went from living in huts.
They industrialized their country.
Industrialized like that. So this guy takes over. This Emperor Meiji takes over, and he's like, "We need to be friends with everybody. We need to use European influence on our buildings. We need to like militarize ourselves hard." And so they do that, and they become this country that starts to produce trains, and they're bringing in architects from Europe, and they're moving really fast. And then they gain a little bit of power, and they go to the United States, they go to the United Nations, and during World War I, and they go, "What's up? We're as powerful as you guys." And everybody's like, "No, you're not. You don't even think you're us. You're fucking Jap dogs." And so they're like, "All right, well, fuck that then. So we're gonna invade." Dude, I have a timeline really quick here if you guys are.
I know that Japan fought Russia.
They fought Russia, and we're gonna talk about that right now. So they fought Russia. Let's see,
1911, I think.
1912. Sorry, no. Shogun. Where's the dude? I write everything down like I know where I'm gonna look at
About
it.
to karate chop your ass.
I know, bro. I'm sorry. So 1467 to 1603. Then there's 1603 to 68. Shogun ruled empire, defeated, unseated. 1877. Here we go. Okay. All right. Japan seizes the Ryukyu Islands, which is Okinawa. Japan people can now travel. 1894, Japanese invades Korea and takes over. That's when Korea's like, yo, China, we need your help. Japan says, fuck you, China, beats China, and takes over fucking Taiwan, and now owns Taiwan. And then that's when the Russians are like, yo, you can't fuck with China. And Japan was like, bap! Chinese-Russo War, 1904, close.
Even though Japan was not shogun, they still had the shogun heart of I'm gonna just die, huh?
Bro, yeah. And that was the thing, is that the shoguns were so crazy because those guys were like, yo, I'm gonna if I die in battle, that'd be great. But if I lose, I'm not gonna hide my face in shame. I'm gonna just kill myself.
Shogun is what the Jedis are in Star Wars, huh?
It's samurais. It's like leaders of the samurai clans. And then you have the daimyos, which were like the mob bosses of the samurai clans.
Darth Vader's helmet, even though it's a Nazi helmet, it's also looks like
a shogun helmet. Yeah. And that's the thing, is Nazi, like Hitler took a lot of like
Nazi stuff, huh?
He took a lot of his stuff also from like shogun related stuff. And the thing is the shoguns were so crazy that when the empire took over, they had to give like 50% of their wealth to the shoguns to just sit down and chill out, to not fucking fight, to not battle, so that they could like be what they want. And that's what kind of The Last Samurai is about.
They wanted them to get fat.
That's actually an actual battle, which is called the Battle of Satsuma, where like the last of the samurais were like, yo, we want to be involved still. And the government's like, you don't have guns, get the fuck out of here. So like you have the Japanese Russo War.
Wait. I did watch a movie once. Now that I'm having a flashback, but that when the shoguns were also like the last people that were actually still using horses, huh?
Yes. Yeah,
and they were fighting that old conventional way of
to them it was
arrows.
Right, it was a disgrace to use guns.
Yeah, fighting, and they wanted to just battle like that. And the shogun did battle people with guns and lost, huh?
Right, yeah, because it was a dishonor to them, because you were cheating. Like, dude, like real shoguns and samurais didn't even sneak attack people. It was like, let's meet up and then have like battles with each other.
So ninjas were like a shogun working illegally at night, huh?
Ninjas were like shoguns that had like adapted secretive tactics that were working under like pretty much like, because dude, Japan is all about, even if you go to Japan now, it's all about honor. And they considered ninjas were dishonorable. My brother was like a ninja,
but he was dressed up like a lady at night, la niña.
But so here we have like Japan smacking around Russia. Now you have Imperial Japan. And what happens is Japan starts invading places. They take Korea, and their whole basis on taking Korea was like someone else was going to do it, so we did it first. Then they took part of China. They took which was Manchuria, which was Northeast China.
That battle of Japan and Korea, I saw that in a movie too, bro. Korea fought strong, but man, Japan,
fierce.
They came in, bro. They didn't just come in like tactically. They came in there mentally.
Yes.
And like the mafia, bro. Like first they put fools in there just to make friends with everybody, and then they had people in the hierarchs, and then it was now when the war started, the people that were still there, they were actually getting messages and telling, listen, man, they have 1 million, they have 90,000 troops, and they're ready. Are you gonna give up or not? So I goes, who are you working for? Them? Look, I'm just a messenger. I've always been a messenger.
Right? Yeah. They're
like he was put there to. That guy was put there to be a messenger.
Yeah.
Since day one, bro.
Right.
Not to kill.
No.
But just to be there when the time comes to get that fucking message.
Tactical.
With a light and let them know that, hey, man, we're coming in strong.
Hard and fast. Huh? And that was the thing is.
There's spies everywhere, bro.
Because Japan, if anything, when you got to like the
Koreans
samurai
were rich,
warriors
bro,
were the fiercest and as legendary as they make. Because I love Japan stuff, and that's what Felipe was talking about. Because like I'm a big fan of Japanese stuff, and I used to be a big fan of like I read about a lot of samurai stuff, and like what happened is that you took a samurai who was a loyal, fierce, really good fighter, and you turned him into a stealth like warrior who has a gun and is not afraid to die. You know, like it's a much more crazier thing, and so they were very.
I like
fierce.
how
They moved quick. They took land really quickly, and it wasn't until they fucked with France and European nations by taking Thailand, like Indochina, which is Thailand.
trying to take Hong Kong,
No, they had already taken Hong Kong,
Manchuria.
and Manchuria, but by now they were like taking Laos, Vietnam, and I can't remember what other countries in that area. Thailand. And that was all owned by French. And that's when they were like, hey, this can't happen. And America was like, okay, Japan, you're not recognized as a world superpower still. And now you're being a fucking shithead. So no more oil for you. And that's when Japan was like, what, bitch? You're not going to give me no more fucking oil? Fuck that. Guess what? There goes Pearl Harbor. And that's when, yeah. And that's when people think, oh, Pearl Harbor happened and then fucking Hiroshima and then we went over there right away. Fuck no, dude. Japan fucked us up and fucked us up good and fucked us up for a while. And we were weak for a while. Like they like started taking more territory after that. It wasn't until the Battle of Midway that we took over.
Scared the shit out of them, bro. They had to grab all the Japanese in America.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's how scared we were, bro. Is that we weren't taking.
I don't understand why we're scared of. I still don't understand why we're scared of 9 gangs from Venezuela right now, though.
Right, exactly, dog. Because they took over one apartment building. Get the fuck out of here, dude. These guys, Japan was on a fucking imperial march through the fucking.
How much
Europe.
power does Japan have compared to the Venezuelan gang now? No power.
Dude.
The amount of power Japan had when they bombed Hiroshima.
No, Japan has a little bit of more power
when
now.
they bombed when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
How much power does Japan have compared to the power that the Venezuelan gangs have in America?
Well, at that time they had a lot of power. A lot of power.
Who has more power though?
Who has more power? Japan would. Japan by far.
How far is their power compared to the Venezuelan gangs in America?
Venezuelan gangs don't have a lot of power. They have like I could call the cops and have them stopped fucking up my house power. You know what I mean? Like at the time, Japan was like
you could gather up 5 Karens with bats and go get translated.
Yeah. Japan had like 1,000 troops who do not care if they die are gonna march through your village.
That's like the Japanese mentality because they're very cordial. Very professional,
right?
Like in when I was watching King of the Hill, and what's his name? Hank went to meet his half brother in Japan.
In Japan, yes.
And their dad was missing, and Hank was going, "Hey, have you seen this guy? Have you seen this guy?" And his brother in Japan goes, "Oh, you're going about it the wrong way."
Yeah.
And then he was walking up to everybody very, very polite and giving them a business card.
Yes, yeah.
And then he goes, "Oh, they ain't never gonna call." He goes, "I give them a call, and then they'll call me." Well, either way, bro, but he went very polite.
Right, and that's how they are. Like now.
So I know that back in the day, a person would lose a business instead of getting shamed. He'll commit suicide. I don't know what they call that.
Or if he loses
when they commit suicide, what
seppuku,
is that
seppuku.
Okay.
Seppuku.
So growing up, I remember learning that this about Japanese people that a kid fails in math or he ain't gonna be like rather than bring shame to the family for being a loser in school, he'd rather just commit suicide.
I think the kid part, the teenager, they don't have a problem with youth through suicide, but they have a problem.
No, but I'm saying, is that a thing that they actually do?
No, I don't.
Instead of, they
not at that age. They do kill.
But as adults.
As adults,
yes.
If your business fails, like that's where they go, because it's a suicidal. I think it's a suicidal.
They allow it?
Society. They don't allow it, but because since the beginning of time, samurais. If I'm the head of a samurai clan and we just lost a battle, or my leader, my daimyo gets killed.
When I'm in the trains.
Then I kill myself out of shame. Like
Speaking of shame, bro, when I'm inside of a crowded bus or a crowded metro link, trying to connect to another gate, and it's really crowded,
Yeah.
and I'm bumping into people, all I think about is Japanese porn.
Why?
Because Japanese porn rules when it comes to like being busy inside of a subway. Like there's pornos out there with Japanese men, and there's like a 20-year-old college girl, and she has her books, and she's just trying to hold on to the rail. There's like 5 Japanese businessmen grabbing her boob all hard, and they're grinding her, bro. And then another Japanese porn I saw was there's this Japanese woman. She's trying to tell the news, and everybody's jizzing on her head. And she said it's gonna be partly cloudy and they invented, bro, that type of ejaculation, bro.
What? Just like
Kamikaze? No,
like powerful. Like,
bukkake.
bukkake.
It's called bukkake. You heard of it?
Yeah,
You heard of bukkake?
Yeah, bukkake's when you like. Is that when you jerk off? Like a bunch of dudes jerk off on one chick?
Yeah, that was the first time I learned about bukkake, bro.
It was on like Howard Stern or something, right?
Yeah, bro. Then I was watching a video that
Yeah.
a lady telling the news, and then everybody passing by, bro.
Just jerking on.
Even a guy in a wheelchair, bro. They held him up.
No, they did not.
He
bro.
was swinging, bro, like a monkey.
They were holding him up like fucking.
It's funny how you're a pervert. We're listening to the story, going, man, you guys have that all wrong. Because you probably thinking Felipe is so bad, talking about this stuff. I am bad. How about the listeners who are correcting me on this?
There's the listeners right now that are like, actually, what happened?
Yeah, how about the
is...
listeners who are correcting me? Who's
Right,
the word
yeah.
pervert?
Yeah, whoever's commenting right now.
This guy who actually saw the video go, Felipe, I actually know her name.
Bro, someone who was typing is stop typing and listening to us
Somebody's
right now.
going to go right now and go, what's her name? I'm asking for a friend.
Can you please put the links of where you saw this in the description?
I didn't know that, but Pat Morita, the guy from
Yeah, Mr. Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi, the actual actor, he was in one of those camps.
And he was also no way,
Yeah.
really.
So I was wondering, because he was Japanese in the movie,
Right.
and he was in those encampments, right? Also, when they grabbed him as a kid, he became Pat Morita ended up being a stand-up comic.
That's
And
right.
he talked about his ordeal and and Mr. Miyagi, he also had he was a World War II veteran, right, for America, Mr. Miyagi. So
Right,
I always
yes.
wondered as a kid, how this guy lying? How can he be a World War II veteran and we bombed him and we were fighting his people? How could it be a veteran? But then I kept thinking also, right, how was he fighting for America and we were fighting Japanese, and why does he still love America? These are questions that nobody answered for me. But when I was doing the research for this podcast, I realized that Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi was in one of those camps.
Right.
And when you're in those camps, you have to prove your loyalty to America. Like every day, man, you have to say, "Oh yeah, man, podcasters are hilarious."
Well, you have
to prove yourself.
And they have.
So he was part of the little army that came out of the camp to fight World War II.
Right. Okay. So that's the thing is.
Talk to me about that. I know you're looking for your notes.
Yeah. So at some point, these people accept that they've been scooped up off the streets and they have to like live in because.
How about that old lady that said, this is the price you got to pay as an immigrant?
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is that just to be clear, not all of America was off limits to Japanese people. There was an exclusion zone, which is pretty much the West Coast, and all the people who lived there were brought to internment camps, and then they were put there till the United States felt like they needed to do something with them. At some point, the war was still either like it wasn't it wasn't sure whether we're going to win the war or not, and we needed more people. And so after they lock these people up for like a fucking year, they roll up, and the army rolls in with recruiters and is like, "Who wants to join? Who wants to join?" And at the same time, they put out a test, and the questions on the test 27 and 28 on this questionnaire.
Would you fight for America?
One was, will you denounce Japan and its imperial ruling? And two, will you embrace America, and would you fight for America? And you had to either, and you had to answer those, and whatever, and they knew once they wrote that what the complications were going to be, because you got to remember too, man, it's not an easy question. 27 and 28.
What the question? What the first question?
Are you willing to serve in the armed forces of the United States on combat duty wherever ordered? Number 28. Will you swear unqualified? Does that say unqualified? Unqualified allegiance to the United States of America and defend the United States from any and all attacks by foreign or domestic forces. And for where
read it in Japanese, bro. Probably easier.
I know, I can't see it is the problem. So like I put it back on. You had it. And for where any form of allegiance or obedience to the Japanese emperor or any other foreign government, power, or organization. So basically it's saying, are you willing to fight for America? And two, are you willing to denounce the Japanese government? And you had to answer those questions on this form. And they had a term for people who said no to both of those. They were called no boys.
Did they pass?
And those guys were sent to the Tule Lake facility, which was a prison for the people that were either going to be deported or punished for.
So they're supposed to put no yes or yes no?
Yes is what you're supposed to put if you want to stick around. If you want to show your loyalty.
How come they didn't want to denounce Japan? They don't live in Japan. They're American citizens, right?
Right, but that was the thing, is that this is a weird thing because Japanese people have been here since the 1860s. They were some of the first immigrants. So you're talking about people that are not born in Japan. They're born in America, that are picked up off the streets. It's like, bro, it's like them picking me. I'm born here. I'm actually third generation American citizen.
And you prove it.
And it's like right now, yes, and that's the thing. See, we're kind of looking at, bro, I feel like we're showing these for a reason. I see those
Pancho Villa Mexican hat tattoos, bro. It's like you're part of the cartels.
So I get swept up off the streets. Let's say that all of a sudden they're like, we don't trust Mexicans anymore. And then they start putting us in camps. And it's like, but I talk like this. People even confuse me for a fucking white person. And I still have to go to a camp. But anyway, so when you say yes, what happens next is less than a year later, they start drafting people that said yes. And they start drafting. There's two, and let me just say there's two types of Japanese people in these camps. Okay, they're the Nisei
yes
and the
no,
Issei.
no.
So the Issei are the first generation immigrants, people that are here, first generation, and the Nisei are the kids. Okay, the second generation, people that are born here, and so they start recruiting Nisei people to go to fight in the wars. And
Nisei.
And so so that's Nisei people. Look up 442nd Regiment if you can, because this is a pretty amazing story, because they were taking these people, and this is what you're asking: how could you go fight for someone who put you in an internment camp? And a lot of people, I feel like when I was reading this, were like, I want to show that I'm still a loyal person.
Yeah, I'm loyal.
And so these guys go over and they fight.
And
this is the most decorated to this day, this is the most decorated military regiment and unit in the United States of America, and it's made up of all Japanese kids that were from internment camps. They have Japanese only,
no more.
Loyalty, 27 willing to fight, 20 person who said no. Army would go. So in January 1944, the military drafts all these guys. 300 choose to say no but stay home. The rest say yes. 442 the 442 is the most decorated in the American military. I guess I didn't put.
Imagine, bro, you were there to fight your country. It's like saying, man, you have your gun, and you go, hey, man, is that Fujimoto? Yeah. Shoot that bastard.
So did you read the book that I showed you, the Say Goodbye to Manzanar?
Nah.
Okay, so in that book,
But I read the documentary, the other ones.
So in that book, her brother he joins the Navy, and he goes back to Japan after and what's crazy is the person who wrote this book, her dad was from Hiroshima, and he had come here in the 1860s or whatever, whenever he was able to, or a little bit after, and so the older brother, who's one of the guys that gets locked up in the internment camp with her, he chooses to go fight. He joins the Navy. And then when he's in Japan, he goes and visits with his family in Japan and starts to meet these people and find out that some of their own ancestors had died in Hiroshima. But so here's just an idea of they did I'm trying to find they have 21 medals of honor, 8 presidential citations, over 9,486 Purple Hearts, which is a lot. That's 9,486 wounded veterans. Distinguished unit citations for 102nd and 3rd Battalions, 442nd Infantry, and 232nd Engineer Company. So that's quite a lot. 21 medals of honor is 20. Just so you know, the Medal of Honor is the highest medal you could get as a soldier in the country, and that unit had 21.
Damn.
Yeah. So man, that's the thing is these guys. What's fucked up, bro, is when they came to collect everybody. One of the things that I read was that there was furniture dealers that were waiting right outside the houses, and so when they would come out with $100 cabinet or china that was worth $500, and back then I'm talking $500, and they would go, I'll give you $10 for that china set, I'll give you $5 for that cabinet, and it's they were just waiting there to take their shit from them.
Vultures,
vultures, bro. And these people get sent to this camp for 2 years, and they're forced to live there.
How about that one man that takes off with
3 years,
with a bunch of nails, bro, and hammers,
with a bunch of hammers
and nails?
Okay, tell me about that one.
The documentary you sent me when that guy said everybody was laughing at him because they were evacuating, but he was grabbing.
Oh,
nails.
He was grabbing nails and hammers. So he was the smartest one, because that was the thing is by the time they got to the camps, they were just tents.
Yeah,
and they had to fucking build, dude. And that was the thing is this wasn't when we talk about internment camps, and I think they want to make you realize we locked up people against their will, and we shouldn't have done that. But I think what they take away when they're doing that is that they didn't lock them up like fucking Hitler locked up the Jews. It wasn't they were locking them up to kill them. They were locking them up. Yeah, they were locking them up, and they were feeding them, and they were trying to take care of them. Again, I'm not trying to make it sound well, look how good the U.S. was doing. They kidnapped people, but these people had some freedoms. They were able to build onto their houses. They they started to have gardens. They started to make water fountain features, and that's kind of the beauty of that book that I read was
that was they have to be American over there, prove every day they have to prove they're Americans,
every day.
They couldn't have sword fight because they look too much like Shogun fights. They have to play baseball.
Right, and that's actually true, bro. Is that they were because as Mexican kids, even growing up as a Mexican American, we still have culture, and so it would be you.
That's why you see these Japanese.
Pancho Villa, and I'll be
these Japanese men with names like George.
Yes,
they have to change it.
Well, George Takei.
Yeah, George Takei.
He has a children's book about it, and there's an Audible thing that he does about it. But George
his book,
they
picked up. That's funny, man. If I were to write a book about a children's book about immigration, it'll be instead of an immigration bus, it'll be a big dragon came to grab my family. And they
and swooped us off.
And dragged them out of the house.
Well, you want to know how this kind of meets up with some of our other episodes? One of the big residential. So when there was 10 internment camps throughout the United States, and all of them were dedicated to one thing or another. You know, there was one that was for prisoners. There was one that was for just couples. There was one, but one of the bigger ones that was for families and was a larger one was Manzanar, which was here in California. But what's funny, dude, is that it meets up with our podcast a little bit because Manzanar was put in the Owens Valley.
Owens Valley, where the water is.
Where the water was.
Where the water was.
Where the water was.
When they got there was no water, huh?
There was no water. And so they were put in the Owens Valley, like at the shallow end of the valley, like on the dry lake bed. And the first night that they showed up to Manzanar, there was a huge windstorm that brought in sand, and the next morning all their shit was covered with sand and stuff like that. And they had to figure it out. They had to be like, dude, what do we do? And then at the same time, the government didn't know how to feed them. So they would give them like rice with fruit syrup and fruit poured over it as like a meal. And they were like, this is disgusting.
Acai
Yeah,
bowls.
that's Manzanar right there.
Manzanar.
So let's go over.
How long like? Okay, I know that United States was bombed by the Empire of Japan, right?
Right.
How long from that point did they start grabbing Japanese Americans and putting them in those camps?
Right away. Almost
okay.
Right away.
So those camps weren't even built when they got there.
They were not built at all. No, they were like.
Because I remember like.
When they got there, they were tents. They were like
tents.
one cabin or two cabins.
And they had to build them themselves.
And they had to like. Well, they had the Army Corps of Engineers that was building them, and they were able to add on to them themselves, especially when they got a unit that was a little bit more solid. The first year was really rough for these guys, comparatively speaking. I'm not trying to say none of it was rough because it was all rough, but the first year was particularly rough because they were trying to sort out who they thought was loyal and not loyal, and where are people going to go, and what are we going to do with them, and so nobody was sure, and they were stuffing like families of 12 in like one room.
That's only one generation away from us. Like my parents, if they were Japanese, they were probably would have been grabbed.
Yes, bro. So we had these friends, the Shinagawas. Rest in peace, Jim.
The what?
The Shinagawas.
Wow, they took them.
They were friends.
La Chingawa.
Their daughter played softball with my sister, and their kids were around the same age as us. And that was the thing, is that I never knew. This is when I first heard about internment camps, because like we would hang out at their house every year, and my dad and Jim Shinagawa would drink and get drunk every night, and Kaz Shinagawa, the wife, would hang out with my mom, and I would like walk around and eat all the food and look at the pictures. And there was one where it was like this farm, and I was like, oh, they lived on a farm. And my sister was like, no, that was when they were at the internment camps. And I was all, what? What do you mean internment? Like, she's all, yeah, they were in a concentration camp. Like, and then that's when I first found out, because dude, I didn't learn that in school. I don't remember being taught about Japanese internment camps in school, right? Like it was something that you kind of
you would just mad dog that white teacher for the rest of the year, bro.
Probably, bro. But yeah, so like that's the thing, is like there were people our parents' age. Our parents, yeah. And what's fucked up about it is that they didn't have Italian concentration camps, which were our enemies at the time. They didn't have German concentration camps, which was our enemy at the time. No. Like they had no, not at all, dude. They weren't rounding up fucking Germans in New York. And that was the other thing too, is that when these people got out, dude, you got to remember, like
they didn't give them no money.
They gave them money, and then in the 80s, President Reagan acknowledged that we fucked up, and he gave them each $20,000, which isn't shit. And he even does, just in fairness for Reagan, he did say, bro, this isn't shit, and it doesn't replace what happened to you.
Those $20,000, they probably looked at it like the way Henry Hill looked at those $1,800 that fucking Polly gave him. So in the end, it was $1,800 for a lifetime of work.
Right. And that's how these these people had to come back from nothing. You know, in some places, like shout out to like Washington, Bainbridge, Seattle area, because
They took people from the area we do shows at, huh? Like
Yeah.
Visalia and those areas.
well, Japanese are very prominent on the West Coast because
They couldn't come back to the West Coast, huh?
That was the thing, bro, is that they were encouraged to go to the Midwest and East Coast where nobody knew who they were. And Japanese people reporting, yeah, I'm not getting hate over here. But then there were some that were like, yo, I'm fucking from LA. My home is LA. You know, like, and California, very liberal. Haha, not so much back then. We're like, stay the fuck out. Washington, though, like Bainbridge, there was a huge Japanese population in Bainbridge, Washington, which is like a little north of Seattle. And I just want to mention this town because they kept everybody's shit there. They they closed down their businesses, but they didn't replace them. They like kept them like secured so that when they came back, they had their businesses.
Remember that place where the Japanese arrived and everybody was really nice to them and giving them cookies and food?
That was Bainbridge.
They went to. Well, I know when they went to Texas, it was the worst for them. They were racist over
They
there.
were racist as fuck. That was the thing, is that some of them scattered to parts where it was super racist. Some of them went to the East Coast where it wasn't a problem. And then some of them were like, I'm staying right here. The problem is the Long Beach and Los Angeles were had it really hard because people shot at them and people treated them like shit. And fucking there's 3 groups at the time that were made up after the Japanese were released from the internment camps. The No Japs Incorporated, which is what it's really called, Homefront Commanders, which was out of Sacramento.
Who are them?
And they were also people that wanted to fight Japanese people coming back to California.
They were white people?
Yeah, white people. Pacific Coast Japanese Problem League in Los Angeles also wanted to keep people out. That's such a dumb name.
What are fear mongers? Huh?
Yeah, bro. And that was the thing, is like, you got to remember, as these people are locked up and fighting to get out. And here's another guy that's an interesting story that I wanted to mention. Fred Ketamatsu, who was the first guy to get arrested in resistance to staying home. He was a welder from Oakland. He paid to have plastic surgery put on his eyes so that he could appear normal, but he got caught anyway and was arrested.
He was eating a steak. He was eating steak and eggs with chopsticks, bro.
His case led to the Supreme Court and all this other stuff, and then the Supreme Court deciding finally that you can't lock up loyal, actual, naturalized, or natural U.S. citizens. And so the people were released, and at the same time, the State Department was like, we don't want to keep them there anyway. Let's just let them go. Yeah, that's a good idea, Judge. Let's let them go. And so they start to let them go, but these people were locked up for 3 years while the country's been fear-mongered. You know, like if you look up Japanese, like World War II posters, you know, they show Japanese people in a really, really awful way. And so these people are like, you know, and again, you know, here we are dealing with a problem.
Some of them have supermarkets, bro.
Where people are like, you know, afraid of Venezuelan people, you know, because we watch shit on TV and we think, oh, what's that Trende de Aguara, or whatever the fuck it's called, is doing this, and I should be afraid of Venezuelan people. Well, I live with all Venezuelan people. They're very loud and disruptive, and they have not yet figured out how the plumbing system works in our building, but they're not dangerous. They're not fucking scary. They're not going to fucking hurt me. They're not taking my job. They're not taking any jobs that I would be in line for, you know, but here we are trying to fucking push them out of our country because of what we see. And you got to now think about it. These people have been out of the sight for 3 years, and all of a sudden they come back into the frame and they're treated like complete shit. And then there's division amongst them as well, because there's the people who wanted to show loyalty and go off and fight. And then there's the people who are like, fuck that. I'm not going to defend this country until you fucking take my parents out of concentration camps. You know, and then you had them also eyeballing the people who were just wrongly arrested for fucking, you know, whatever reasons. And that was the thing, is that at the end of this, in the 80s, we found that there were no Japanese spies that were in any of these camps. There were nobody that was like committing any of these crimes. I'm done. Sorry.
But they were funny. Like they like, I don't know. The Japanese people were allowed bank accounts back then, but they lost everything, right? Just like the Jews lost everything.
Bro. They did have bank accounts. They owned homes. And that was the thing.
Land.
From the 1860s. Yeah, because when they came here, one of the deals was that the farmers would hire Japanese workers because Japanese were good farmers. And in the 1860s, the farmers in Japan, because of modernization, were being pushed out. So they came here to live. And white farmers in California were like, for every 10 acres of land you work for us, we'll give you an acre of land to you. And so Japanese were one of the biggest farm owners in California. That was another thing too, was that Japanese went through the same shit kind of as we did as Mexicans, where it was like, we need you. Wait a minute, we don't need you. Wait, we need you. And the Chinese as well. But for Japanese, it was like, all of a sudden, the Depression came and it was like, these Japanese people own all this fucking property. We can't let them own property anymore. And there was like an act to there was some law that made them so they couldn't own property. But right away that was turned over and they were owning property again. But yeah, dude, like the book that I read, her dad had 2 fishing boats. And when he came back, he had nothing. Like he had no home, nothing, no property. Like it was gone. Yeah, there was no way to hold your shit. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to stick you in a camp for 2 years because we don't trust you. But guess what? If you get out, you get your home back. You get your shit back.
The great thing was that back home there was very, very nice white people and very, very nice Mexican American people that said, when you come back, I'll hold on to your land. And
Yes.
some of them were cool like that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there was one guy that I read where he went back. No, I think it was a video that I saw. He went back to his town near Seattle, and they were like, here's a house, and you have unlimited grocery credit for the next, 2 or 3 months. And then here's a job. One guy got his restaurant back because the Mexican people took it over and were working it for him. There were people that were like, this is wrong. And if you think about it, in World War II era America, for people to think that something like that is wrong, that's got to be really bad because we were really racist and fucked up back then. Way more racist than we are now. And we're pretty fucking racist.
There were no Italian encampments, but a lot of Italian restaurants were gone out of Los Angeles. That's why we don't have a real big Little Italy.
Oh, really?
But our Little Italy used to be right next to Chinatown. There used to be a restaurant called the Turtle. It was called the Velvet Turtle Italian restaurant.
Ooh, sounds amazing. Actually.
And that was in a big Italian restaurant. And then there was a restaurant in downtown on 9th Street called the Italian something, and that shit all closed down World War II too.
Wow. Okay. No shit, dude. It's weird because America is we call it the social. We call it I've heard lately it referred to as a social experiment, and it is because we're the first country where we've had, for better or for worse, regardless of what you want to call this country, what makes it so great is that there's so many different races that have been here for a long time. And it's weird when we go to a world war because we're fighting our own people, It's like, what are we going to do, when it happens again? But yeah, they didn't, nobody was, I read
the problem is that a lot of white people don't feel safe unless there's chicken tenders everywhere they go.
Chicken tenders and macaroni and cheese.
Along with there's chicken tenders and ranch, everywhere in the world, some white people are going to be very happy, bro.
Very happy, especially Midwestern folks. I'd imagine they love their comfort.
You're in Taiwan and shit, having a good time. You guys have tenders?
I was reading in one of Steinbeck's East of Eden. There's a German guy in town during World War II that gets fucked up by everybody because they just start being super racist to them. So it's not like it wasn't happening to them. It just they weren't getting locked up in internment camps.
That was a derogatory name for Japanese people called Jap.
Jap was the derogatory term for them. And probably, again, back then, who knows? Like last week, we're using the WB, the wet be word. I don't like to say it, okay, Ray? Okay? But
there was a lot of flooding in McAllen, and people were with wet backs.
Yes, there was backs that were wet in McAllen. There was, definitely, when we were there this last weekend. But
because a lot of people didn't make it to my show because they live in a place called Mercedes, Texas.
Oh, really?
And that place got really flooded.
Oh,
bro.
That's what happened? Because it was a sold-out show.
It sold out, bro, because those tickets were sold regardless. They probably made double the money.
Dude, McAllen, holy fuck, you guys came out, though, still. Bought almost every shirt that night we had.
We're driving to the airport to leave McAllen, and
Yeah.
you could see, like, seaweed, bro, on the floor.
Floating up. No way, like kelp.
It was really bad, bro. Cubans were floating up, too. They were wearing, MAGA hats, bro. So they let them stay. History for fools, man. So, it was crazy, bro. Like white people wouldn't have no idea what that's like, bro. Like, unless you like live it, white people need to put their stuff in a situation where they're sitting at home, man, chilling. And they're watching Love After Lockup, or they're watching they're watching a football game, bro. So bro, you're at home with your homies. You're watching a UFC fight. You guys all have your shirts off. You're watching a UFC fight.
Sure, that's how I do.
And then 100 motherfuckers are outside your house right now, and they say, "Get in the car."
Yeah.
But you don't know what they're saying because you don't speak that language. But you don't know what they're saying because you never seen that language being spoken to. They're telling you, get in the car, and then you don't listen. What? I'm an American. They don't understand what you're saying. So they kill the first person.
Oh.
Now the next one in line is saying, I think they want us in the truck. So he goes in the truck. And the next one goes, hey, man, I need to know why we're going in there. And then everybody say, he better shut up. And then he shoot him.
Now that guy's knows, so everybody else knows to be quiet now.
But then you never been in a situation like that. That's how you know the same. Unless that happens to you, you don't know, man.
Right. Yeah, totally. I mean.
But people are starting to realize now in other countries, bro, because you're like, you can be like having social media fights about politics with somebody on the internet and then go to a country where all that stuff doesn't even matter.
Right.
And have that same attitude and think you're going to climb a pyramid where it says don't climb a pyramid.
Or like you're in Mexico and the cop just starts searching your car and you're like, sir, I didn't give you permission. You don't have probable cause.
Both cops came out of a Volkswagen on the same door. You're going to argue with them?
They came out of a bug. They do. They have bugs.
They came out of the Volkswagen out of the same door, and you're going to argue about human rights?
Yeah.
He's wondering why he's not driving your car.
Yeah, very true.
It's different, man, when, black and white racism is different from classism. Because anybody that grew up poor and now a cop and you're being an asshole and you're rich, it's over.
Right. Yeah, dude.
Like if I'm a cop, bro, I grew up poor and I made it out of my poor class where everybody's a plumber. I don't want to be a plumber, so I don't move up. I'll be a cop. And then, and then my son, hopefully he won't want to be a cop. He want to be a prosecutor. And then, my next son want to be a judge. And that's how you move up in class.
Right.
So now I'm barely in the bottom, bro, still. I'm the bottom of the class as a cop. But there's this rich asshole from another country trying to throw his rights from another country at me.
Right. This little privilege and bullshit like that.
I'm going to be wearing his fucking Jordan by the end of the night, bro.
Yes. In Mexico, that would be.
I'm going to be wearing his Jordans
right.
and wearing his Von Dutch hat.
Yeah, in most countries, that would be the case. That'd be how it would go down too. Like I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you, then I'm gonna write you a ticket if you're lucky, and I'm gonna send you on your way without any shoes. And it's like, here, dude, fuck no, you can't. Like, that's the thing is, bro, is we complain a lot.
Like my neighbor right here, bro.
Come on.
He was complaining about a guy parked in front of it. He didn't park in front of his driveway, but the back of his car was sticking out of it on his driveway, and he called the parking attendant guy to give him a ticket and tell him I can't take my car out. And he was not. And then the guy never takes the car out. I never seen him put a car in there.
Right.
He didn't even open the garage to show us the car.
Yeah.
So he's complaining about the guy should get a ticket. So I'm outside being nosy.
You told me about this.
And the cop goes, "You have a question?" "Yeah, man, that car's stolen." "No, all right." So then, dude, the cop didn't give that guy a ticket, and then that guy takes up all his recyclables, the trash can,
Right.
and he has 3 recyclables,
Okay.
3 recyclable cars.
Oh,
And they're all overstuffed, and they're
Right.
filled to the top
with just shit in it.
with cardboard boxes that he didn't bother to cut up and fold so it could fit in a
Right,
trash
but he's
can.
mad about this guy's
But
car.
it's like 4 feet above. You can't even close the lid. The box is must be 10 feet tall,
Right.
and there's 4 feet sticking out of it, and the other one is plastic. That's dirty plastic that you use when you do construction. It's all dirty,
Right.
and he puts it all in there. And man, I honestly, bro, I want to be a Karen and go over there. Hey, man, I saw you complaining about 12 inches of parking space here covering up your car you never take out. But then you take out all the recyclables, bro. When you didn't bother to fold. I seen your back.
Right.
Your knife's back.
Right.
And you didn't bother to do this, man. And if you ever go outside, this Mercedes-Benz parked in front of my house all the time. I seen him park over there. I think you should let this slide, neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're so
Let it
territorial. We're
slide.
so petty.
But he's fat, bro.
Yeah.
He looks like a fat ass Captain Kirk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I should go tell him something. Then I said, nah, man. He's another white man that I'm gonna outlive.
Right.
Probably gonna fall off a roof.
Not happy. Not having, dude. So if someone's like that, if you're calling cops on 12 inches over the line of your curb,
I had women
bro, you're just not a happy
I had women
person.
go to
You're not having a
hospital
good
after
life.
5 inches.
You're not having a good life, bro. You're not a happy person. So good luck to you, dude. Go fuck yourself, Like, what can I tell you? That's how I be living. I got my backpack back, by the way. Just to let everybody know from last week, because people were concerned. Thank you for your concern. Got my backpack back. Did take my camera equipment, but overall got my medications back. Whew. And they left the weed in there too.
Hell yeah. History for Fools. Japanese Internment Camp.
Japanese Internment Camps, dude. History for fools.
You have Japanese friends? You ever been with a Japanese woman?
I never been with a Japanese woman, but I have a lot of Japanese friends.
It's crazy how much of a hard Robin Williams used to have a joke about Japanese industrial, how strongly they came back after World War II.
Yeah.
He said a joke, the Japanese. He goes, you give us 2 bombs, you buy all our products.
Right. Yeah, dude, for real.
Because the 80s and 70s, everything from the 60s is all Japanese, Sony.
Right, yeah.
Everything, bro.
Everything.
What's American? Panasonic?
Nope.
No, Mitsubishi?
No. Mitsubishi's Japanese. Panasonic's Japanese.
Fujifilm?
Zenith is American.
Fujifilm?
Fujifilm's Japanese. There's an old story in the
Kodak,
70s.
American.
Kodak is American, yes. There's an old story that in the
Minolta.
70s, we thought we were at the pinnacle of our high-tech industry. And we made this really thin wire, super thin wire at like a UC. and it was the new invention. It was going to be the new copper. It's what's
Listen,
in
bro,
our. It's what's in our.
let's not talk about your penis right now.
It's what's in. Fuck you. It's what's in our headphones, our old headphones that we would have. Anyway, they said that to the Japanese, and we're like, look at this wire, just to be impressed by this thin wire. And the Japanese were like, okay, cool. And they took a drill and they drilled right down the middle of that wire perfectly and sent it back. And that's how, and that was just like kind of an explanation of how much more advanced they've been and they are. They're advanced, bro. When you go to Japan, when we had flip phones, they were talking into their phones. Like that's the thing is when you have time to not think about war and fucking people up, because after we bombed them and World War II was over, we rewrote their constitution, and in their constitution we put that they cannot start a war ever again. They're limited on their military unless we say so, which we just gave them permission to have a navy. But yeah, this is what happens when you fucking give a country no reason to have war. They flourish. I don't think Japanese are smarter than anybody else.
Japanese got what they wanted, though, because all they wanted before World War II was
peace,
to be allowed to go into America and live there and have green cards and start businesses.
Right.
So they ended up getting what they wanted anyway.
They got what they wanted
at the price of 2 bombs.
Oh, that's true, bro. That's
because that's what America Japanese wanted to go in there and trade and start businesses. America said, hell no.
Right.
So they said, all right. That's when you said we start taking over all these places.
We took over.
But that's what in the end, Japan got what they wanted.
Right. I would say Japan is, as we talk about, like they totally got what they wanted. But I think
at the price of their people.
We all got what we wanted. But yeah, at what cost? At what fucking cost? 150,000 people lost their lives.
Speaking of people losing their lives, how badly were you on mushrooms, bro, during the tsunami in Japan?
Oh my God.
You, Steve Danner, and Rodrigo.
And Chris Torin, dude. We did mushrooms. You
were
headlining that weekend in San
This is
Francisco.
the one that tripped me out. I knew this fool was tripping. When he was walking, Butch was trying to walk normal. Everybody was walking normal, but they were already laughing. They were laughing. Then they all had a heart attack, but especially Butch started off when there was this man selling condoms.
Condoms. Dude, okay, no, wait a minute. Sorry. Back up here. Because, first of all, we didn't expect there to be a tsunami that night, okay?
But this was before the tsunami.
You had a show in the financial district in San Francisco, and the financial district is dead. And even back in the day, even prior to COVID, 2 a.m, it's dead. So we're fucking shrooming balls, bro. And it's so dead that San Francisco's mall stays open. It's open air. You could like walk through the middle of it in the middle of the night and no one's going to do anything. And Rodrigo goes upstairs because he needs to take a leak. And so he goes upstairs to piss in a corner somewhere. And all of a sudden he comes back dying, bro, just laughing. And this black dude walks out behind him in like a little suit, and he's like, "Who wants to buy condoms? You want to buy condom?" And he's got like 100 condoms, like fucking like pulled out like a deck of cards. So yeah, dude, when you're high on mushrooms at 2 a.m, like what? Even when you're not on mushrooms, bro, at 2 a.m, you see that, you're like, what the fuck?
History for fools, man. Japanese internment camp. You know who's Japanese? Actually, Yoshi, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he's been to Japan to do comedy too. I can't remember. I talked to him one night for a little bit when I was staying at Edwin's. That's the only time I ever got to know him, really. But yeah, he's Japanese for sure. And then Aiko Tanaka is another comic.
Right.
Very funny and is from Japan. And she's like a glamour girl from Japan. She was like in Fast and Furious and all that shit.
So that girl we had on the podcast, right? She's Japanese? Chinese, my bad. Ni hao.
Ni hao.
Crazy.
Difference between ni hao and konnichiwa.
I don't know. History for Fools, man. Butch Escobar, thank you very much for throwing on the knowledge of power. Yeah. See you guys next week. Don't forget, man, subscribe. And I want to see more than 30 comments. Yeah, and also throw in the comments your suggestions. If you guys have any suggestions, someone sent me one that I would like to do, and it was that, dude, it was dope. It was like how
During the American and Mexican War, they brought in Irish troops, and the Irish went to go fight the Mexicans.
Yeah, the San Patricios.
And then they heard the fucking bells from the mission and were like, yo, you guys are Catholic? And Mexicans like, yeah, we're Catholic. And then the Irish were like, we're Catholic too, what's up? And they started fighting for the Mexicans. And then they were hunted down and like hung. And that's why in Mexico they celebrate St. Patrick's Day every day to this day.
Actually,
Anyway, stuff like that, send that to me.
Actually, what happened was that the Irish love potatoes, bro. And they smelled papa and eggs, bro. It's called the San Patricios, and I will do one about that. And also, there's a movie with Tom Selleck, I think, or I don't know his name, but there's a movie about that too somewhere. History for Fools. Next week's subject, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Figure it out between now and then. It's up to you. No, it's not. I'm just kidding. Have a good one.